Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Playbook. I'm David.
And I'm Sarah. And wow, do we have an exciting episode for you today?
We absolutely do, Sarah. Today, we're diving deep into something that affects millions of people around the world, job interviews. Specifically, how to talk about your educational background and work experience like a total pro.
That's right. And this is episode 18 of our podcast series, where we help you master English for real-life situations. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for being part of the English Playbook family.
Now, Sarah, I have to ask, do you remember your most nerve-wracking job interview?
Oh my gosh, yes. I was interviewing for this marketing position right out of university, and I was so nervous I could barely string a sentence together. I think I said about 50 times in the first 5 minutes.
We've all been there. But here's the thing. Job interviews don't have to be terrifying. With the right vocabulary, the right strategies, and a bit of confidence, you can absolutely nail them.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to cover in detail today. We're basing this episode on some fantastic material about advanced job interview techniques, and we're going to break it all down in a way that's easy to understand and actually use.
So whether you're a recent graduate looking for your first job, a professional considering a career change, or someone who just wants to improve their English interview skills, this episode is for you.
We're going to spend the next 100 minutes together, and by the end, you'll have a complete toolkit for discussing your education and experience in English interviews.
Let's break down what we'll cover today. First, we're going to explore the educational terminology used in English-speaking countries, things like majors, minors, bachelor's degrees, and more.
Then we'll dive into how to actually talk about your educational background in an interview. What should you emphasize? What details matter most?
After that, we're moving on to work experience, how to describe your previous roles, your achievements, and your contributions in a way that really impresses interviewers.
We'll also look at some incredibly useful vocabulary and phrases that can make you sound more professional and polished.
And throughout the episode, we're going to give you tons of practical tips, real examples, and even some common mistakes to avoid.
Plus, we'll share some funny and unexpected interview questions we've encountered. Like, David, if you were a tree, what kind would you be?
Oh no, are we actually going to discuss that question?
We absolutely are. But first, let's start with the foundation, understanding educational terminology in English.
All right, Sarah, let's talk about the education system in English-speaking countries, because this can be really confusing for non-native speakers.
It really can. The system in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia is quite different from many other countries around the world. So let's start with the basics.
First up, the word major. Now, most people know what a major is, but there's a little trick to using this word correctly.
Right. So a major is the main subject you study at university. For example, you might have a major in business administration or history or computer science.
But here's the trick. You can use major as both a noun and a verb. As a noun, you say, my major is business administration. But as a verb, you say, I majored in business.
And when you use it as a verb, it's always followed by the preposition in, always. You can't say I majored business. It has to be I majored in business.
Let me give you some examples. I majored in engineering. She majored in psychology. They majored in international relations.
Perfect examples. Now let's talk about something that's very unique to English-speaking universities, the concept of a minor.
Yes, this one surprises a lot of international students. Sarah, explain what a minor is.
So a minor is basically like your major, but smaller. It's a secondary subject you study alongside your main subject.
Here's how it typically works. If you major in history, maybe 60% of your classes are history courses, but you could also minor in French, which means maybe 30 or 40% of your classes are French courses.
So you end up with expertise in 2 different areas. You could major in business with a minor in arts or major in biology with a minor in psychology.
And just like major, you can use minor as both a noun and a verb. My minor is art, or I minored in art.
This system is really common in the US and Canada, but less common in some other countries. That's why we're explaining it in detail.
Now let's move on to degrees. The first degree most people get is called a bachelor's degree.
A bachelor's degree is what you receive after completing about 4 years of undergraduate study at a university.
You might hear people say, I have a Bachelor of Arts, or I have a Bachelor of Science, depending on their field of study.
In conversation, people often shorten it to just bachelor's, like I got my bachelor's in 2020.
After your bachelor's degree, if you want to continue studying, you can pursue a master's degree.
A master's degree typically takes another 1 to 2 years after your bachelor's, and it's much more specialized and focused on a specific area.
For example, you might get a Master of Business Administration, that's the famous MBA, or a Master of Science in Computer Science.
And here's something important for interviews. Having a master's degree shows that you have specialized, advanced knowledge in a particular field. It demonstrates commitment and expertise.
Absolutely. Now, the highest degree you can get is a PhD, which stands for Doctor of Philosophy.
But here's something confusing. You don't have to study philosophy to get a PhD. You can get a PhD in almost any subject.
Right. You could have a PhD in chemistry, or engineering, or international relations, or literature.
A PhD typically takes another 5 to 7 years after your bachelor's, and it involves a lot of original research.
It's a huge commitment, and relatively few people have PhDs. If you have one, it definitely makes you stand out in the job market for certain fields.
Now let's talk about the term postgraduate studies. This is a really useful term to know.
Postgraduate simply means any education you pursue after your bachelor's degree. So that includes master's degrees, PhDs, and various professional certifications.
In an interview, you might be asked, tell me about your postgraduate studies, and that's your opportunity to discuss any advanced education you've pursued.
All right, now let's talk about some other education-related terms that came up in the original dialogue we're discussing today.
First one is course of study. This is a really formal way to describe your educational plan or program.
Your course of study is basically the path you followed during your education. It includes all the subjects you studied and how they fit together.
For example, you might say, I chose this course of study because it combined technical skills with business knowledge.
Another similar term is track. A track is like a specialized path within a broader program.
For instance, within a business administration major, you might have an information management track or a marketing track or a finance track.
Think of it like train tracks. It's the specific direction you're heading in your studies.
One more important term, graduated with honors. This means you completed your degree with a very high grade point average or GPA.
Different schools have different honor systems. You might hear summa cum laude, magna cum laude, or just with honors.
The key point is graduating with honors demonstrates you were an excellent student, and it's definitely worth mentioning in an interview.
Sarah, I think we should pause here and really emphasize something important.
What's that?
Many of our listeners might be from countries with completely different education systems. They might not have majors and minors, or their degree structure might be completely different.
That's such a good point. So what should they do?
The key is to understand this terminology so you can explain your education in terms that English-speaking employers will understand.
Exactly. You might need to translate your educational background into this framework. For example, if you have a 3-year degree, you could describe it as similar to a bachelor's degree or equivalent to a bachelor's degree in the U.S. system.
And if you specialized in a particular area, you could say, I majored in, even if your university didn't officially call it that.
The goal is clear communication. You want the interviewer to immediately understand your educational qualifications.
Perfect summary. Now we're going to take a quick breather and then move into how to actually talk about your educational background in an interview. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the English Playbook. We're diving deep into job interview skills today, and now we're going to talk about how to present your educational background effectively.
This is so important because often the very first substantial question in an interview is, tell me about your educational background.
And the way you answer this question sets the tone for the entire interview. You want to be confident, clear, and strategic about what you highlight.
Let's look at an example answer. In the original dialogue we're discussing, the candidate says something really impressive. Let me read it. Sure, well, I graduated with honors from Chesterton University with a major in business administration with a specialization in information management, and I minored in psychology.
That's an excellent opening. Notice what he does. He immediately establishes his credentials. He mentions the university, the fact that he graduated with honors, his major, his specialization, and his minor.
All in just one sentence. It's comprehensive but concise.
But here's where it gets really good. He doesn't just list his degrees. He goes on to explain why he chose this course of study.
Right, he says, I chose this course of study for two reasons. I wanted to gain some practical, marketable skills, which the information management track provided, and I also feel that interpersonal skills are essential for professional success, hence the minor in psychology.
This is brilliant. He's not just telling the interviewer what he studied, he's showing that he made thoughtful, strategic decisions about his education.
Exactly. He's demonstrating that he understands how his education relates to his career goals and the job he's applying for.
That third point is so important. You want the interviewer to see how your education has prepared you specifically for this role.
Let me give you another example. Imagine you're applying for a marketing position and you majored in communications with a minor in data analytics.
Great combination. So, how would you present this?
You might say, I graduated from State University with a major in communications and a minor in data analytics. I chose this combination because I believe effective marketing requires both creative communication skills and the ability to analyze data and measure results. This diverse background has given me a unique perspective on creating data-driven marketing campaigns.
Perfect. You've explained your degrees, your reasoning, and how it relates to marketing. The interviewer immediately understands why your education is relevant.
Now, here's something really important that often gets overlooked. You shouldn't only talk about your formal degrees.
Absolutely right. Your educational background includes everything you've done to learn and develop professionally.
This includes workshops, seminars, conferences, online courses, certifications, professional training programs. All of it counts.
In the example dialogue, the candidate mentions this. He says, I also strive to keep my professional skills current, so I continuously attend seminars and conferences related to management and customer service.
That's such a powerful statement. It shows that learning didn't stop when he graduated.
Exactly. Employers love to see candidates who are committed to continuous learning and self-improvement.
So if you've taken any relevant courses on platforms like Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, mention them.
If you've attended industry conferences or workshops, mention them.
If you read professional journals or trade publications in your field, mention that too.
All of this demonstrates that you're proactive about staying current in your field.
Now, let's talk about some useful vocabulary for discussing your educational background. These words and phrases can really elevate your answers.
First up is the word pursue. To pursue something means to chase after it, to work toward achieving it.
You can say, I pursued a master's degree, or I'm pursuing professional development opportunities.
It's much more dynamic and active than just saying, I got a degree. It shows initiative and determination.
Another great word is strive. To strive means to try really hard to achieve something over time.
I strive to keep my skills current, or I strive to learn something new every day.
This word conveys dedication and commitment, qualities every employer wants to see.
Here's a more formal word that can make you sound very professional. Hence.
Hence is basically a fancy way of saying therefore or that's why.
For example, I'm passionate about user experience, hence my specialization in UX design.
Or the tech industry changes rapidly, hence my commitment to continuous learning.
Using hence makes you sound articulate and educated. Just don't overuse it.
Right, use it once or twice, not in every sentence.
Now, let's talk about specialization. The word specialization is really important in academic contexts.
A specialization is a focused area within a broader field of study. It shows you have deep knowledge in a particular area.
I have a specialization in artificial intelligence, or my specialization was corporate finance.
This is especially important if you're applying for jobs that require specific technical knowledge.
Let's also talk about the phrase graduated with honors. We mentioned this earlier, but let's expand on it.
If you graduated with honors, definitely mention it, but don't just drop it in and move on.
Right. You could say something like, I graduated with honors, maintaining a 3.8 GPA, while also working part-time and participating in student leadership programs.
That gives context and shows you we're a high achiever who could balance multiple responsibilities.
But what if you didn't graduate with honors? That's totally fine. Don't lie about it, but you can emphasize other achievements.
Exactly. Maybe you were president of a student organization, or you completed a significant research project, or you earned a specific scholarship.
The key is to show that you were engaged and accomplished during your studies, not just getting by.
Now, I want to talk about something that international students often struggle with: how to explain an educational system that's different from the US or UK model.
This is such an important point. David, what advice would you give?
First, research how your degree translates. Many countries have degree equivalency guides that explain how your credentials compare to US or UK standards.
And in the interview, be clear and direct. You might say something like, I completed a 3-year bachelor's degree, which is standard in my country and equivalent to a U.S. bachelor's degree.
Or if you have a specific type of credential, explain it. I earned a diplom, which is a 5-year integrated degree in Germany, roughly equivalent to a master's degree in the US system.
The key is clarity. Don't assume the interviewer knows your education system. Help them understand.
And if you had any study abroad experiences or international exchanges, definitely mention those. They show adaptability and cross-cultural skills.
Great point. Okay, let's talk about postgraduate studies specifically, because this often comes up as a separate question.
When an interviewer asks, "Tell me about your postgraduate studies," they want to know about any advanced education beyond your bachelor's degree.
This is your chance to talk about master's degrees, PhDs, professional certifications, or any specialized training.
In the example dialogue, the candidate listens to how the candidate answers. Well, I'm really passionate about consumer behavior, so I pursued a master's in that area.
Notice that he starts by explaining his passion first, then mentions the degree. This makes the education feel purposeful, not just a box to check.
Exactly. He's showing that his postgraduate studies were driven by genuine interest and career goals.
And then he adds, I also strive to keep my professional skills current, so I continuously attend seminars and conferences related to management and customer service.
That's such a powerful statement. It shows ongoing learning, not just one-time achievements.
Exactly. Employers love to see candidates who are committed to continuous learning and self-improvement.
So if you've taken any relevant courses on platforms like Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, mention them.
If you've attended industry conferences or workshops, mention them.
If you read professional journals or trade publications in your field, mention that too.
All of this demonstrates that you're proactive about staying current in your field.
Now, let's talk about some useful vocabulary for discussing your educational background. These words and phrases can really elevate your answers.
First up is the word pursue. To pursue something means to chase after it, to work toward achieving it.
You can say, I pursued a master's degree, or I'm pursuing professional development opportunities.
It's much more dynamic and active than just saying, I got a degree. It shows initiative and determination.
Another great word is strive. To strive means to try really hard to achieve something over time.
I strive to keep my skills current, or I strive to learn something new every day.
This word conveys dedication and commitment, qualities every employer wants to see.
Here's a more formal word that can make you sound very professional. Hence.
Hence is basically a fancy way of saying therefore or that's why.
For example, I'm passionate about user experience, hence my specialization in UX design.
Or the tech industry changes rapidly, hence my commitment to continuous learning.
Using hence makes you sound articulate and educated. Just don't overuse it.
Right, use it once or twice, not in every sentence.
Now, let's talk about specialization. The word specialization is really important in academic context.
A specialization is a focused area within a broader field of study. It shows you have deep knowledge in a particular area.
I have a specialization in artificial intelligence, or my specialization was corporate finance.
This is especially important if you're applying for jobs that require specific technical knowledge.
Let's also talk about the
Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into job interview skills, and now we're going to tackle work experience.
This is often the meatiest part of an interview because employers really want to understand what you've actually done in your previous roles.
Absolutely. Your education shows potential, but your work experience shows proven ability.
So let's start with the typical question.
Tell me about your work experience.
This seems like a simple question, but there's actually a lot of strategy involved in answering it well.
Right, you can't just list everywhere you've worked. You need to tell a story that demonstrates your value.
Let's look at the example from our source material. The candidate says, I worked as customer support manager at Oracle, which brought me a breadth of experience in both client care and process management.
Great opening. He immediately identifies his role and the company, then highlights the scope of his experience.
Then he gets specific. I supervised and coordinated the customer support team, as well as implemented new strategies to achieve better customer satisfaction.
Notice the power verbs here. Supervised, coordinated, implemented. These are action words that show leadership and initiative.
And then, this is crucial, he quantifies his achievements. With the different initiatives that we implemented, we lowered our churn rate to about 5%, which had a direct impact on revenue.
This is interview gold. He's giving specific, measurable results. Not just, I improved things, but I lowered churn rate to 5%.
Employers love numbers, percentages, dollar amounts, time savings. Anything you can quantify makes your achievements more credible and impressive.
So let's break down the formula for discussing work experience effectively.
First, identify your role and the organization. Be clear about your job title and where you worked.
Second, describe your main responsibilities using strong action verbs like supervised, coordinated, implemented, developed, etc.
Third, highlight specific achievements and projects. What did you accomplish?
And fourth, whenever possible, quantify your results with numbers, percentages, or other concrete metrics.
Let me give you an example. Imagine you worked as a project manager. Here's a weak way to describe it.
I managed projects and worked with teams to complete tasks on time.
That's pretty vague. Now here's a strong way to describe the same experience.
As project manager, I coordinated cross-functional teams of 12 people and successfully delivered 8 major projects over 2 years. I implemented agile methodologies that reduced project completion time by 25% and decreased budget overruns by 40%.
Wow, can you hear the difference?
It's night and day. The second version is specific, quantified, and impressive.
Now, let's talk about some essential vocabulary for describing work experience. These are words that make you sound professional and accomplished.
First, let's look at job responsibility verbs. These are words that describe what you did in your role.
Supervised means you oversaw other people's work. I supervised a team of 5 sales associates.
Coordinated means you organized and synchronized different activities or people. I coordinated marketing campaigns across 3 departments.
Implemented means you put new systems, strategies, or processes into action. I implemented a new inventory management system.
Managed is a general term for overseeing something. I managed the annual budget of $2 million.
Developed means you created something new. I developed training materials for new employees.
Executed means you carried out plans or strategies. I executed the company's social media strategy.
Other great verbs include spearheaded, established, streamlined, optimized, directed, facilitated, orchestrated.
All of these words convey leadership, initiative, and accomplishment. Use them.
Now, let's talk about a really sophisticated word that came up in the dialogue, breadth.
Breadth means the width or range of something. When you have breadth of experience, you have experience across a wide range of areas.
For example, this role gave me breadth of experience in finance, operations, and strategic planning.
It suggests you're well-rounded and versatile, not just specialized in one narrow area.
Another important concept is making contributions. A contribution is something valuable you add or give to an organization.
The candidate in our example says, in this position, I was able to make some pretty significant contributions to the overall success of the company.
That word significant is important too. It means important and large enough to be noticeable.
You want to emphasize significant contributions, not minor ones. Think about what really made a difference.
Now, here's something crucial. You need to be specific about your achievements and whenever possible, attach numbers to them.
This cannot be emphasized enough. Vague claims don't convince anyone.
Don't say, I improved customer satisfaction. Say, I improved customer satisfaction scores by 35% over 6 months.
Don't say I increased sales. I increased sales by $500,000, representing 20% growth year over year.
Don't say, I reduced costs. Say, I reduced operational costs by $150,000 annually through process improvements.
The specificity makes your achievements real and verifiable.
Now, what if you don't have a lot of work experience? Maybe you're a recent graduate or changing careers.
Great question. This is a common concern. The key is to expand your definition of experience.
Exactly. You can talk about internships, volunteer work, student leadership roles, freelance projects, or relevant class projects.
The important thing is to describe these experiences using the same professional framework: responsibilities, achievements, and results.
For example, if you were treasurer of a student organization, you can say, as treasurer of the Business Student Association, I managed a budget of $50,000, implemented new expense tracking systems, and reduced unnecessary spending by 15%.
See? That sounds professional and impressive, even though it was a student role.
Or if you did an internship, you can say, as a marketing intern at XYZ company, I supported the team in executing 3 major campaigns and personally created social media content that generated 10,000 new followers.
You're framing your experience in professional terms and quantifying your impact.
Now, let's talk about something tricky, discussing why you're leaving your current job or why you left previous jobs.
This is such a minefield. You have to be honest but strategic.
The golden rule is always stay positive. Never badmouth a previous employer, even if they were terrible.
Even if your boss was a nightmare, even if the company was dysfunctional, don't say it in an interview.
Here's why. It makes you look unprofessional and difficult to work with.
So instead, frame your reasons for leaving in terms of what you're moving toward, not what you're running away from.
For example, instead of saying, my boss was impossible to work with, say, I'm looking for an opportunity to work in a more collaborative environment where I can contribute to strategic planning.
Instead of saying the company was going nowhere, say I'm seeking a role with more growth potential and opportunities to take on leadership responsibilities.
Instead of saying, I was bored, say, I'm looking for new challenges that will allow me to expand my skill set.
See how you're reframing the same sentiment in a positive, forward-looking way.
This shows maturity and professionalism. It also keeps the focus on what you can bring to the new role, not the problems with the old one.
Now, let's talk about gaps in employment. What if you have a period where you weren't working?
First, don't panic. Many people have employment gaps for legitimate reasons.
The key is to be honest and frame the gap in a positive light if possible.
For example, you could say, I took a year off to care for a family member, and during that time, I also completed several online courses to keep my skills current.
Or you could say, I was pursuing my master's degree full-time and chose to focus entirely on my studies during that period.
Or even say, I was laid off due to company restructuring, which actually gave me the opportunity to reflect on my career goals and pursue training in areas I'd been wanting to develop.
The point is to show that even during gaps, you were learning, growing, or dealing with legitimate life circumstances.
Absolutely. And remember, a short gap, a few months, often doesn't even need much explanation.
Now, let's discuss career changes. What if you're applying for a job in a different field from your previous experience?
This requires careful framing. You need to identify transferable skills, abilities, and experiences that apply across different fields.
For example, if you're moving from teaching to corporate training, you might highlight your experience in curriculum development, public speaking, assessing learning outcomes, and managing diverse groups.
Or if you're moving from sales to project management, you might highlight your experience in building client relationships, meeting deadlines, coordinating with different stakeholders, and achieving measurable targets.
The key is to show how your previous experience has actually prepared you for this new role, even though it's in a different field.
Right. Don't apologize for changing careers. Frame it as bringing a fresh perspective and diverse skills to the new role.
One more important concept, taking initiative. This phrase means taking action before others do, being proactive rather than reactive.
Employers love candidates who take initiative. It shows leadership potential and self-motivation.
You might say, I noticed our customer service response time was slow, so I took the initiative to develop a new triage system that reduced response time. We're back, and now we're going to share some advanced strategies that can really set you apart in an interview.
These are the things that separate good candidates from great ones.
First, let's talk about the concept of continuous learning and professional development.
This came up in our example dialogue, and it's so important. Employers want to know that you're committed to growing and staying current in your field.
The candidate said, I also strive to keep my professional skills current, so I continuously attend seminars and conferences related to management and customer service.
This is powerful because it shows he didn't stop learning after graduating. He's actively investing in his own development.
So, how can you demonstrate this commitment to continuous learning?
First, mention any professional development courses you've taken. Online courses, workshops, boot camps, certification programs.
Second, talk about industry conferences or seminars you attend. This shows you're engaged with your professional community.
Third, mention any professional publications, journals, blogs, or podcasts you follow to stay current.
Even mentioning that you regularly read industry news or follow thought leaders on LinkedIn shows engagement.
Fourth, talk about any professional associations or networking groups you belong to.
All of this paints a picture of someone who is passionate about their field and committed to excellence.
Now let's talk about the STAR method for answering behavioral interview questions.
The STAR method is a fantastic framework for structuring your answers. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result.
Let me break this down. When you're asked about a specific experience or challenge, like tell me about a time you faced a difficult problem at work, use this structure.
Situation. Describe the context. What was happening? Where were you working? What was the challenge?
Task. Explain what you needed to accomplish. What was your role? What were you responsible for?
Action. Describe what you specifically did to address the situation. What steps did you take?
Result. Share the outcome. What happened because of your actions? Quantify if possible.
Let me give you an example. Question. Tell me about a time you improved a process at work.
Using STAR, situation. At my previous company, our onboarding process for new clients took an average of 6 weeks, and we were receiving complaints about the delay. Task, as the operations manager, I was responsible for streamlining our workflows. Action, I analyzed the entire process, identified bottlenecks, and implemented a new digital onboarding system that automated several manual steps. I also created clear documentation and trained the team on the new process. Result, we reduced onboarding time from 6 weeks to 2 weeks. Client satisfaction scores increased by 40%, and we were able to take on 30% more clients without adding staff.
Perfect example. That answer is specific, structured, and impressive.
The STAR method keeps you focused and ensures you tell a complete story that demonstrates your value.
Now, let's talk about questions you should ask the interviewer. This is so important.
Absolutely. At the end of most interviews, they'll ask, do you have any questions for us? This is not optional.
Having no questions makes you seem disinterested or unprepared. You should always have 3 to 5 thoughtful questions ready.
Here are some great questions you can ask, like what does success look like in this role after 6 months or a year?
What are the biggest challenges facing your team right now?
How would you describe the company culture and team dynamics?
What opportunities are there for professional development and growth?
What are the next steps in the interview process?
These questions show you're thinking seriously about the role and evaluating whether it's a good fit for you, too.
Exactly. The interview is a two-way street. You're evaluating them as much as they're evaluating you.
Now, let's talk about body language and nonverbal communication in interviews.
This is huge. Studies show that nonverbal communication can be just as important as what you actually say.
First, maintain good eye contact. This shows confidence and engagement.
But don't stare. It's a balance. Look at the interviewer when speaking and listening, but it's okay to briefly look away occasionally.
Second, sit up straight with good posture. Slouching makes you look disinterested or unprofessional.
Third, use hand gestures naturally when making points. This shows enthusiasm and helps you communicate more effectively.
But don't overdo it. Excessive or nervous gestures can be distracting.
Fourth, smile. A genuine smile makes you seem friendly, approachable, and positive.
And please put your phone on silent and put it away. This should go without saying, but checking your phone during an interview is a disaster.
Now let's discuss virtual interviews, which have become much more common.
Virtual interviews have their own unique challenges and considerations.
First, test your technology beforehand. Check your internet connection, camera, and microphone.
Make sure you're in a quiet, well-lit space with a professional background.
Look at the camera, not at your own image on the screen. This simulates eye contact.
Dress professionally from head to toe, even though they might only see your top half. It puts you in a professional mindset.
Have your resume and any notes nearby, but don't read from them, obviously.
And eliminate distractions. Close other tabs, mute notifications, and make sure no one will interrupt you.
Now, let's discuss something that often gets overlooked: how to handle difficult or unexpected questions.
Remember the tree question I mentioned earlier? If you were a tree, what kind would you be?
Right. Some interviewers ask these quirky questions to see how you think on your feet.
The key is not to panic. There's usually no right answer. They want to see your thought process and how you handle pressure.
Take a moment to think before answering. It's perfectly fine to say, "That's an interesting question. Let me think for a moment."
Then give a thoughtful answer that, if possible, relates back to the job or your strengths.
So with the tree question, you might say, "I'd be an oak tree. They're strong and dependable. They provide shelter and support to others, and they grow steadily over many years. Those qualities reflect how I approach my work and relationships with colleagues."
See? You've turned a strange question into an opportunity to highlight your professional qualities.
Now, let's discuss salary negotiations, because this often comes up towards the end of the interview process.
This is such a delicate topic. Many people feel uncomfortable discussing money.
First rule, if possible, try to let the employer bring up salary first.
If they ask, "What are your salary expectations?" you can deflect initially by saying, "I'd like to learn more about the role and responsibilities before discussing compensation. What is the range you have budgeted for this position?"
This turns the question back to them and gives you information to work with.
If you must give a number, give a range rather than a specific figure. For example, based on my research and experience, I'm looking for something in the $70,000 to $85,000 range.
And do your research beforehand. Use websites like Glassdoor, Salary.com, or Payscale to understand typical salaries for similar roles in your location.
Remember, salary is just one component of compensation. Also consider benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities, work from home options, etc.
All right, let's talk about follow-up after the interview.
This is crucial. Always send a thank you email within 24 hours of your interview.
Keep it concise, 3 to 4 paragraphs. Thank you for their time, reiterate your interest in the position, briefly mention something specific from the interview, and express enthusiasm about the next steps.
Here's a template. Dear inviter's name, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today to discuss the position role. I enjoyed learning more about specific aspects of the role or company you discussed, and I'm even more excited about the opportunity to contribute to company name. I'm particularly interested in mention something specific from the interview, and I believe my experience in relevant experience would allow me to make immediate contributions to your team. Please let me know if you need any additional information from me. I look forward to hearing about the next steps. Best regards, your name.
Perfect template. This shows professionalism and keeps you fresh in their mind.
One more advanced tip: mirroring and rapport building.
Mirroring the interviewer's communication style can help build rapport.
If they're formal and businesslike, match that tone. If they're more casual and conversational, you can be a bit more relaxed.
If they use certain terminology or phrases, it's okay to incorporate those into your answers. It shows you're listening and speak their language.
But don't be fake or try too hard. Authenticity is still most important.
Great point. Now let's move towards wrapping up with some common mistakes to avoid. All right, we're in the home stretch. Let's talk about common mistakes people make when discussing their education and experience.
Mistake number 1, being too modest or underselling yourself.
This is especially common with people from certain cultural backgrounds where humility is highly valued.
But in an English-speaking interview context, you need to confidently present your achievements.
You're not bragging, you're providing evidence of your capabilities.
Mistake number 2, being too vague or general.
Saying I'm a hard worker or I'm good at problem solving doesn't mean anything without specific examples.
Always support general claims with concrete examples and quantified achievements.
Mistake number 3, talking too much or rambling.
Your answers should be comprehensive but concise. Aim for 1 to 2 minutes per answer, not 10.
If you find yourself talking for several minutes without pausing, you're probably losing the interviewer's attention.
Mistake number 4, negative language about past employers, colleagues, or experiences.
We mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. Always stay positive.
Mistake number 5, not preparing for common questions.
Questions like, tell me about yourself, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and why do you want this job come up in almost every interview. You should have solid answers prepared.
Mistake number 6, failing to connect your experience to the specific job you're applying for.
Don't just recite your resume. Explain how each experience has prepared you for this role at this company.
Mistake number 7, not asking any questions at the end.
This makes you seem disinterested. Always have questions prepared.
Mistake number 8, lying or exaggerating.
This is the worst mistake. If you claim skills or experiences you don't have, it will come back to haunt you.
Employers often do reference checks and background verification. The truth always comes out.
Plus, even if you get the job through dishonesty, you'll struggle to perform and likely be found out.
Mistake number 9, poor preparation.
Not researching the company, not reviewing your own resume, not thinking through your experiences, all signs of poor preparation.
Spend several hours preparing for important interviews. It's worth it.
And mistake number 10, forgetting that likability matters.
Technical qualifications are important, but employers also want someone they'll enjoy working with.
Be professional, but also personable. Show your personality. Smile. Be genuine.
Now let's give our listeners a pre-interview checklist they can use.
Great idea. Here's what you should do before every interview.
1. Research the company thoroughly. Understand their mission, values, recent news, and challenges.
2. Review the job description carefully and identify how your experience matches their requirements.
3. Prepare specific examples and stories that demonstrate your key skills and achievements.
4. Practice answering common interview questions out loud, not just thinking about them, but actually saying the words.
5. Prepare thoughtful questions to ask the interviewer.
6. Choose professional interview attire and try it on beforehand.
7. Prepare your documents, multiple copies of your resume, a list of references, any portfolio materials.
8. Plan your route if it's in person or test your technology if it's virtual.
9. Get a good night's sleep and eat a healthy meal beforehand.
10. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes early or log on 5 minutes early for virtual interviews.
Following this checklist will help you feel confident and prepared.
Now let's do a quick vocabulary review of the most important terms we've covered today.
Major, your main subject of study.
Minor, your secondary subject of study.
Bachelor's degree, undergraduate degree, typically 4 years.
Master's degree, postgraduate degree, typically 1 to 2 years after bachelor's.
PhD, the highest degree, requiring 5 years of research.
Course of study, your educational plan or program.
Track, a specialized path within a broader field.
Postgraduate, any education after your bachelor's.
Pursued, chased after, worked towards achieving something.
Strive, try hard over time to achieve something.
Hence, therefore, that's why.
Breadth of experience, wide range or variety of experience.
Supervised, oversaw other people's work.
Coordinated, organized and synchronized activities.
Implemented, put into action or practice.
Contribution, something valuable you add or give.
Significant, important and noticeable.
Take initiative, take action proactively before others.
Those are your power words for interviews.
All right, as we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with some final inspirational thoughts.
Remember, job interviews are stressful for everyone. Even people who seem confident are probably nervous inside.
The key is preparation. The more prepared you are, the more confident you'll feel.
Don't try to be perfect. Be authentic, be yourself, and let your genuine enthusiasm and qualifications shine through.
Every interview is a learning experience, even if you don't get the job.
After each interview, take some time to reflect. What went well? What could you improve? What questions caught you off guard?
Use each experience to become better at interviewing.
And remember, the right job for you is out there. Sometimes rejection is protection. Maybe that job wasn't the right fit anyway.
Stay positive, keep learning, keep improving your English and your interviewing skills.
We believe in you. You've got this.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for spending these 100 minutes with us.
We'd love to hear from you. Leave us comments about your interview experiences, questions you've been asked, or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes.
Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the English Playbook, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode.
Share this with anyone who might be preparing for a job interview. It could really help them.
And remember, practice makes progress. Keep working on your English, keep preparing, keep pushing towards your goals.
Until next time, I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. Keep playing, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next episode of the English Playbook.